BluLunch, Sheridan College's own sports podcast, hosted by Jay and Drew.
Good afternoon. This is the Jay and Drew Show, also known as BluLunch. I'm Drew. He's Jay. You can't see where I'm pointing, but I'm pointing to Jay. Big week in sports last week. We're going to recap the Argos winning the 100th Grey Cup.
Yay.
Yeah, well, I'm the Calgary. I was going for Calgary, but anyways, we'll look at the Blue Jays and the hiring of their new manager, John Gibbons. We'll talk some NFL, and we'll look at the Raptors' dreaded 3 losses in a row that they had. But of course, we'll start with the 100th Grey Cup, and we'll start with how Ricky Ray was on his game and Kevin Glenn was not. That was a horrible game by Calgary.
Well, you know that I love Ricky Ray, so it was kind of I was watching the game and thinking, Andrew's really got to hate this. He's got to be hating this because...
Well, you sent me a message saying something about my boyfriend, Kevin Glenn, so...
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean to... Actually, I did. No, Ricky Ray, he played a good game. I think, he was on top of it the whole game. He didn't really... There was no missteps. There was one play where... actually, it was the only play where Calgary actually stopped him from making a pass. But
it looked like Calgary was going to roll with it. I mean, they intercepted Ray, the first possession of the game? And you're thinking, oh my God, is this how it's going to be the rest of the game?
Yeah.
And next thing you know, from that point on, Toronto seemed to kick it up a notch. Calgary, the score looked closer than what it actually was. I mean, it could have been 30, 40 points.
When Calgary scored the 22, they got the last
the meaningless touchdown.
The meaningless touchdown. I was thinking to myself, I predicted, again, I don't like doing predictions, but I actually told you last week that the score was going to be 42-27. Mm-hmm. Wasn't far off from that. I wasn't surprised that they scored. It's kind of like beating a dead horse. There's no point in it for them to score. But I figured that the Argos, they had won the game at that point.
No doubt.
So they were gonna, take their foot off the gas. They did put the victory play out there. So the victory formation, I mean. So
was it that Toronto was that good yesterday and Calgary was that bad? Or what was it, a combo of both?
You know what I think it was? I think it wasn't so much that Toronto was that good or Calgary was that bad. I think that between Ray and Cackert, they were that good, and Cornish and
you didn't even see Cornish
and Glenn were just abysmal, and it did surprise me. It surprised me because although I did call, and you called as well, that the Argonauts were going to win that game, it was surprising that Calgary, or at least Cornish, didn't come out a little more prepared.
What about Chad Cackert's performance? I mean, 195 yards.
Outstanding.
If I told you back, 3-4 months ago, that...
I already know what you're going to say.
That the Argos would be in the Grey Cup and that Corey Boyd would not be the running back, that it would be Chad Cackert, what would you say?
I first of all... I'd try to commit you because I would never believe that in a million years.
Corey Boyd was leading the league in rushing when he was released. And Jim Barker took a lot of heat. They said, what are you doing releasing the top rusher in the CFL? And Edmonton picked him up right away, and I look like, oh, here we go again, another year at the Argos.
You know how many people canceled their season tickets because Corey Boyd was sent packing? There was tons of people. Yeah. And the Argos, they took a lot of heat for that, but... obviously it paid off. Cackert was amazing last night. And, honestly, I had doubts about Cackert.
No doubt.
Everyone had doubts. Mm-hmm. They're like, seriously? You're sending Boyd away to bring in Cackert.
Established runner. He's been with the team a couple years. Who's Chad Cackert? He was released from Jacksonville. He had a little stint in the NFL, but no-name and turns out to be the MVP of the Grey Cup. It's a great story.
So he says that Coach Milanovic, Milanovic? All right. I don't know how to say his name very well. He calls Kakard up, and he says that, we're releasing Boyd. We want you to be, our number one. We're going to, we're getting rid of him. And I don't know if you saw what he said last night on TSN.
Maybe.
But he said that he thought that Milanovic was calling him to pick him something up at duty free.
No, I didn't see that.
And he's so down to earth, and he's like, honestly, he reminds me like a country boy. He just comes up here, and everyone counted him out, and he comes and he honestly, in my opinion, makes a winning play. Like they won the game in the first 7 minutes of the game, the first 10 minutes of the game, in my opinion. By the first touchdown, it was over, because after that, you could see the way Calgary was playing that they were going to be able to catch up no matter what happened. But Kakard, man, his play, to bring it up, it was
unbelievable.
It was unbelievable, but I think they tried the same play 3 or 4 times after that.
Well, if it's successful, keep running it until they stop it, right?
And it was a set play, so I understand that. But I think they were giving Kakard the ball because they're like, you know what? He just...
you want to wear down the defense. You're at home. Get the running game going.
Exactly.
It all makes sense. What impressed me the most was how Scott Milanovic and Ricky Ray are just on the same page. I mean, their facial expressions didn't change right until the end of the game. Until that final whistle went, then they started celebrating. When Calgary was driving for that meaningless touchdown at the end, they showed Jim Barker celebrating, and they showed other players celebrating, and then they looked at Scott Milanovic, and there he was, still with the headset on, still coaching. And it's just a great performance in general by the Argos.
He's all class. He, at the win last week, against Montreal, they actually, they poured the Gatorade on him, and he actually got really upset at his players for doing that, because he told them after the game that they haven't won anything. Don't do that. And as a matter of fact, it's funny you mention it. Even when they won the game and they poured it on him, he still turned around and he gave like a little fist, like he was going to punch the guy who did it, which was funny. And he's a pretty modest guy, which is good. When they were interviewing him at the press conference after the game, he gave full credit to his team, which was honorable. I love that. I love that he was happy. Actually, you know what? Most of the players said pretty much the same thing, that, as good as it is for them, they're just happy the team won. And, that's great. But I want to know,
I know where you're going.
With this team, winning the championship in Toronto. Oh, God. Winning the championship in Toronto. You think you'd ever hear that before?
You don't even hear playoffs with Toronto.
Yeah.
Let alone a championship.
And, what is this? What does this mean? What does this mean for Toronto? Does this mean that Toronto is a sports city now? Is that actually a championship? A real championship, I should say?
I don't think it's a real championship.
Why not?
And it's nothing against the CFL. I love the CFL. It's an 8-team league. 6 teams make the playoffs. One of the owners owns 2 teams, the Argos and the BC Lions, who won the last 2 Grey Cups. It's not a real championship. I don't
understand what that has to do with it.
Greater than 50% of the teams make the playoffs. And okay, you get through the playoffs, but if the Maple Leafs won a championship, that's a real championship. If the Blue Jays win, that's real. If the Raptors win, that's even real. They had to beat out 29 other teams.
Okay.
It's not a real championship.
But my question, is it a professional sport though?
The CFL in Canada it is.
Well, that's not an answer. That's not an answer. I'm sorry. Okay, so the NFL, is that a professional sport?
Of course it is.
Then CFL is a professional sport. Okay, fine.
You know what?
I have another question, though.
Hold on. There are diehard CFL fans, without a doubt, and they want nothing to do with the NFL. And then it's the other way around. There's hardcore NFL fans that don't like anything with the CFL. And Toronto won the championship. Good for them. And that city deserves a winner. It's gone through so much pain. So they should live it up and enjoy the championship.
I got a question. I got to ask this. So you're telling me CFL, that championship doesn't count?
Not that it doesn't count. It's not as meaningful.
That's not what you said, though. You said, I asked you if it counted as a championship. You said no.
Would I count it as a championship? No.
Okay. So would you count a Calder Cup as a championship?